Welcome back to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be going beyond politics and battles. We're going to explore something truly breathtaking. That is the art and sculpture of the Gupta Empire in India.
That's right. We're talking about a period roughly from 320 to 550 CE. And it was a time that is widely considered a golden age in Indian art.
The Gupta who, you might be thinking. But trust me, this period, it's like bursting with artistic innovation. So we're going to be focusing on a few things like their innovative bronze casting techniques, the grandeur of their temple construction, and also we'll touch upon the expressive beauty of their figurative art.
And what's really fascinating is that these artistic expressions, they didn't just reflect the Gupta worldview. They continue to shape Indian aesthetics and cultural heritage even today. It's a legacy that's still very much alive.
Okay, so before we jump into the specifics, let's set the scene a little bit. Let's picture India during the Gupta period. This wasn't just any empire. It was a time of peace, prosperity, and incredible intellectual and artistic flourishing, a golden age, as you said.
Yes. And crucially, the Guptas weren't just focused on, expanding their territory. They were patrons of the arts. They created an atmosphere where creativity could thrive. They understood that art wasn't just decoration. It was a reflection of their values, their beliefs, their very understanding of the cosmos.
So they were setting the stage for an explosion of creativity. And one of the areas where that creativity really shines is in their bronze casting. I mean, the level of detail they achieved it's just mind-blowing. So tell me, what made their approach so innovative?
Well, imagine creating a sculpture in wax. You encase it in clay and then you melt the wax away. That's the basic idea behind what's called the lost wax method. And this method allowed the Guptas to achieve just incredible detail in their bronzes.
Creating something so intricate and then just, melting it away. It just seems almost counterintuitive.
Yeah.
So what was the advantage of using this method?
It allowed for a level of detail and intricacy that would have been impossible to achieve with other casting methods. Think of like the delicate folds of a Buddha's robes or the subtle features of his face, the precise hand gestures. All of those details were made possible by the lost wax method.
There's not just about the overall form of the sculpture. It's about those subtle details that bring it to life. It's those nuances that actually convey a deeper meaning.
Yes. And those details weren't just decorative. They often had symbolic meaning. They conveyed specific attributes or qualities of the deity being depicted. Take, for example, the Dharmachakra mudra. That's the hand gesture of the Buddha turning the wheel of Dharma.
The wheel of Dharma. That sounds intriguing. What is the significance of that?
Well, in Buddhism, the Dharmachakra represents the Buddha's teachings and the path to enlightenment. And so this gesture on the Sarnath Buddha, which is one of the most iconic Gupta sculptures, it symbolizes the Buddha's first sermon after his enlightenment. And this reminds us that the Guptas, while predominantly Hindu, they were remarkably tolerant rulers, and their support for Buddhist art, like this Sarnath Buddha, really speaks volumes about the inclusive nature of their golden age.
That level of detail is hard to fathom. What kind of tools would they have even used to achieve something like that?
Well, Gupta artisans were just incredibly skilled in using a variety of tools, chisels, hammers, files, and even fine needles for the most delicate work. They were essentially sculpting with molten metal, manipulating it with just incredible precision to create these masterpieces.
It's like they were alchemists, transforming metal into something almost spiritual. Speaking of which, let's move from bronze to another marvel of Gupta artistry, their temples.
Ah, yes, Gupta temples. They're nothing short of architectural poetry. They weren't just places of worship. They were designed to be a spiritual experience, reflecting their understanding of the cosmos and humanity's place within it.
I've read that at the heart of many Gupta temples is a room called the Garbhagriha, which is described as like a womb chamber. That's powerful imagery. So can you tell us a little bit about the significance of the feminine divine in Gupta beliefs and how that is reflected in temple architecture?
Yeah, the Garbhagriha, literally meaning womb chamber, is the innermost sanctum of a Hindu temple. And it's where the primary deity resides. It symbolizes the source of creation, the origin of the universe, and it reflects the reverence for the feminine principle of creation in Hinduism.
So they were literally building their cosmology into the very structure of their temples.
Right.
And what about those towering Shikharas that we see in so many images of Gupta temples? They seem to just defy gravity.
Yes, those towering, curvilinear spires are indeed a defining feature of Gupta temples. And they symbolize the aspiration to transcend the earthly realm and connect with the divine, drawing the eye upwards towards the heavens.
So we have the womb chamber representing creation, And then the spire signifying the aspiration for the divine. It's fascinating how these structures embody both the earthly and the cosmic.
And let's not forget the Pradakshina Patha. It's the covered ambulatory passage that surrounds the Garbhagriha, and it allows devotees to circumambulate the sanctuary. And this reinforces this connection between the physical act of walking and the spiritual act of approaching the divine.
It wasn't just about standing and gazing at a deity. It was about actively engaging with the sacred space, moving around it in this ritualistic way that mirrors the cycles of the cosmos.
Precisely. The Gupta understanding of the universe was deeply intertwined with their art and architecture. They created this visual language that spoke of both earthly beauty and spiritual aspiration.
So we talked about those incredible bronze sculptures and the awe-inspiring architecture of Gupta temples.
Yeah.
But what about their paintings? What kind of stories do they tell?
Well, the paintings of the Gupta period are equally captivating, and they offer us this fascinating window into their culture and beliefs. One of the most remarkable examples can be found in the Ajanta Caves.
Ah, yes, the Ajanta Caves. I've heard so much about them. What makes them so special?
Imagine stepping into this dimly lit cave and then suddenly being surrounded by these vibrant murals that come to life on the walls and ceilings. The Ajanta Caves are a series of rock-cut Buddhist cave monuments in western India. They date from the 2nd century BCE to about 480 or 650 CE.
Wow. To think these paintings have survived for centuries, that's incredible. So what kind of stories do they depict?
Well, many of the murals depict scenes from the life of the Buddha. These are known as the Jataka Tales, and they're stories from previous lives of the Buddha, illustrating moral and spiritual lessons.
So it's like a visual biography of the Buddha, but with a focus on teaching important life lessons.
Exactly. And the artistry is just incredible. The Guptas were masters of fresco painting. They would apply pigments to wet plaster, and this allowed them to create these vibrant, long-lasting colors that still amaze us today.
That's a fascinating insight. It makes you think about how art can reflect an entire civilization's understanding of the universe. What other details should we be looking for when we're admiring these murals?
Well, if you look closely, you'll notice how they reflect the social hierarchy of the time. The way people are depicted, their clothing, their poses, it all subtly tells us this story about power and status in Gupta society. The artists weren't just depicting religious stories, they were capturing the essence of life during that period.
So these beautiful Ajanta cave paintings, they're not just aesthetically pleasing, they're also historical documents, giving us insights into the social dynamics of the Gupta period. It's like a time machine transporting us back to that era.
Yeah, you could say that. The murals also give us a glimpse into the Guptas' appreciation for beauty and nature. They often incorporate elaborate landscapes, lush foliage, and these detailed depictions of animals and birds, all reflecting a reverence for the natural world.
It's like they're reminding us that beauty can be found not just in grand temples or intricate sculptures, but also in the everyday wonders of the natural world.
And speaking of grand temples, let's turn our attention back to architecture for a moment. And let's explore how the Guptas went beyond simply building structures. They created entire sacred landscapes, carefully choosing sites that had natural beauty and spiritual significance.
Sacred landscapes. That sounds intriguing. What do you mean by that?
Well, instead of building temples in isolation, they would often incorporate existing natural features like rivers, hills, or trees into the design of the temple complex. The Dashavatara temple at Deogar is a great example of this.
So it's about integrating those human-made structures with the natural environment, creating the sense of harmony between the two.
Precisely. They understood that nature itself held spiritual significance, and they incorporated this belief into their architecture.
That's such a beautiful concept. And when we consider those innovations in bronze casting, temple construction, and even cave paintings, it becomes clear that the Guptas weren't just concerned with technical skill. They were striving to express something deeper, something more profound through their art.
You're right. Their art was a way of reflecting their worldview, their beliefs, their very understanding of the cosmos.
Okay, so we've talked about the influence of Hinduism on Gupta art, but were there other sources of inspiration that we can see reflected in their artistic style?
Well, the Guptas were definitely drawing upon earlier traditions, but they were also innovating and adapting those traditions in quite remarkable ways.
So let's talk influences for a second. Where were they getting their inspiration? Who were their artistic ancestors, so to speak.
Well, one major influence was the Mauryan Empire. They ruled over much of India a few centuries before the Guptas. Remember Ashoka, the Mauryan emperor who embraced Buddhism?
Oh, right, right. The Mauryan Empire, famous for its powerful ruler, Ashoka. Didn't he leave behind a lot of stone pillars?
Exactly. Ashoka was a great patron of the arts, and he left behind this legacy of impressive stone pillars and stupas. Those are the dome-shaped Buddhist shrines. The Mauryans were masters of stone carving, and they developed this distinctive style that emphasized naturalism and grandeur.
Okay, so stone pillars and stupas. But how did those specifically influence Gupta art? I mean, the Gupta style seems quite different, doesn't it?
Well, it's true that the Guptas developed their own distinct aesthetic, but if you compare a Mauryan stone pillar to a Gupta temple, you'll see some similarities in the overall sense of grandeur and the attention to detail.
Ah, I see what you mean. So the Guptas were inspired by the Mauryan sense of scale and grandeur, but they added their own unique flair, like those towering Shikharas we talked about earlier. It's like they took that Mauryan foundation and built something new and beautiful upon it.
Precisely. And their innovations weren't limited to architecture. They also adapted Mauryan techniques in sculpture. They were creating bronze sculptures that were both technically sophisticated and aesthetically stunning.
So the Mauryans were a big influence. What other artistic traditions were they drawing upon?
Well, another important source of inspiration was the art of the Kushan Empire. They ruled over parts of northern India and Central Asia around the same time as the early Guptas.
The Kushan Empire.
Yeah.
Okay. Remind me what they were known for.
The Kushans were known for their cosmopolitan culture, a blending of Indian, Persian, and Greek influences. They were like the cultural melting pot of the ancient world.
Ah, so they were at the crossroads of different cultures, absorbing ideas and styles from all directions. That must have made their art incredibly diverse and dynamic.
Exactly, and that blending of cultures is reflected in their art. They were known for their distinctive style of sculpture, which combined the naturalism of Greek art with the symbolism and spirituality of Indian art.
So Greek naturalism meets Indian spirituality. It's a fascinating combination. So how did the Guptas incorporate that into their own art?
Well, if you look at Gupta sculptures, you'll see a similar attention to anatomical detail and a sense of realism that was likely influenced by Greek artistic traditions. But the Guptas also infused their sculptures with this sense of spiritual depth that was distinctly Indian.
So it's like they were taking the best of both worlds, combining different artistic traditions to create something new and dynamic. It's incredible how they were able to synthesize these different influences and make them their own.
And that's a hallmark of Gupta art, this ability to synthesize and adapt different influences to create a style that was both unique and universal.
It's like they were taking the best ideas from different cultures and just blending them together to create something truly special. They were masters of fusion centuries before fusion cuisine became a thing.
That's a great analogy. They were culinary artists in their own right, blending different ingredients to create something delicious and satisfying.
Okay, so we've got the Mauryans, the Kushans, but it wasn't just about outside influences, right? They were also building upon existing traditions within India itself, especially in the realm of religious art.
Absolutely. India has a long and rich tradition of religious art dating back thousands of years. And the Guptas were deeply immersed in that tradition. They were familiar with the iconography, the symbolism, the stories that were already being told through art.
So they weren't starting from scratch. They had this vast reservoir of artistic and religious traditions to draw upon.
Exactly. And they were masters of adapting those traditions to their own time and place, creating something that was both familiar and innovative.
So can you give me an example of how they took an existing tradition and gave it a Gupta twist?
Well, take the depiction of the Buddha, for example. The Buddha had been depicted in art for centuries before the Guptas, but they developed this distinctive style that emphasized serenity, compassion, and enlightenment.
Right. We've all seen that iconic image of the meditating Buddha. But what you might not realize is that this specific style, this serenity, this emphasis on inner peace, that's a Gupta innovation.
Exactly. And that style wasn't just about aesthetics. It was also about conveying the essential qualities of the Buddha, his inner peace, his wisdom, his compassion.
So they were taking this existing religious icon and infusing it with their own understanding, their own spiritual highlights. It's like they were breathing new life into these ancient forms, making them relevant to their own time and place.
Precisely. They weren't just copying what came before. They were innovating, reinterpreting, and creating something new and meaningful within that existing framework.
It's incredible how they were able to balance tradition and innovation, honoring the past while also pushing the boundaries of artistic expression.
And that's one of the things that makes Gupta art so fascinating. It's both deeply rooted in tradition and surprisingly modern in its sensibility.
Okay, so we've talked about the Mauryans, the Kushans, and the broader tradition of Indian religious art. Any other key influences we should mention?
Oh, we can't forget about the influence of Hinduism itself.
Okay, Hinduism, obviously a major force in Gupta society, but how specifically did it shape their art?
Well, Hinduism, with its vast pantheon of gods and goddesses, its elaborate mythology, and its emphasis on the interconnectedness of all things, it provided a rich source of inspiration for Gupta artists.
So it was like their religious beliefs were directly informing their artistic expression.
Precisely, and we see this reflected in everything from the subjects they chose to depict to the symbolism they used to the overall aesthetic principles that guided their art.
Okay, so can you give me some specific examples of how Hinduism shaped Gupta art?
Sure. Well, take their temple architecture, for example. The concept of the Garbhagriha as the womb chamber, the place where the deity resides, that's a direct reflection of Hindu beliefs about creation and the divine feminine.
Ah, right, right. We talked about the symbolic significance of the Garbhagriha earlier. It's like they were building their cosmology into the very structure of their temples.
Exactly, and the towering Shikharas, those spires that reach for the heavens, they symbolize the aspiration to transcend the earthly realm and connect with the divine, a key concept in Hinduism.
So the temples themselves were like expressions of Hindu theology, embodying those core beliefs. What about their sculptures? How did Hinduism influence their approach to sculpture?
Well, their sculptures of Hindu deities were incredibly popular during the Gupta period, and those sculptures weren't just about depicting the physical form of the gods and goddesses. They were about capturing their essence, their powers, their roles in the cosmic drama.
So it was about more than just creating a likeness. It was about conveying the spiritual significance of those deities.
Precisely. For example, sculptures of Vishnu often depict him holding specific attributes like a conch shell, a discus, a mace, and a lotus flower.
Okay, I'm guessing those attributes weren't just random decorative elements. They had symbolic meaning.
Exactly. Each attribute represented a specific aspect of Vishnu's power and his role as the preserver of the universe. The conch shell symbolized the primordial sound of creation. The discus represented his power to destroy evil. The mace symbolized his authority. And the lotus flower represented purity and spiritual enlightenment.
Wow. So it's like they were creating this visual language of Hindu theology using symbolism to convey complex religious concepts.
And that language wasn't limited to sculptures. We also see it in their paintings, their temple carvings, even their textiles. Hinduism permeated their art in profound ways.
Okay, so we've talked about the Mauryans, the Kushans, the broader Indian artistic tradition, and the profound influence of Hinduism. It sounds like the Guptas were masters at taking all these different influences and weaving them together to create something truly unique.
Absolutely. They were able to synthesize and adapt these various traditions, creating a style that was both rooted in the past and innovative for its time.
But it wasn't just about blending styles, right? They also developed their own distinctive artistic techniques, especially in the realm of bronze casting.
That's right. The Guptas achieved a level of mastery in bronze casting that was unparalleled in ancient India.
Okay, so let's talk bronze for a minute. What specifically was so groundbreaking about their approach?
Well, they developed a technique called the lost wax method, and it allowed them to create incredibly detailed and intricate bronze sculptures.
The lost wax method. That sounds That sounds complicated.
Yeah, it was a multi-step process that required a high level of skill and precision.
Okay, so walk me through it. How did they do it?
So first, they would create a detailed model of the sculpture in wax. Then they would cover the wax model with clay, leaving a small opening at the top. Next, they would heat the clay mold, causing the wax to melt and drain out through the opening.
So the wax model is gone, leaving a hollow clay mold.
Exactly. Then they would pour molten bronze into the hollow mold, filling the space where the wax had been. Once the bronze cooled and solidified, they would break open the clay mold, revealing the finished bronze sculpture.
Okay, so the wax model is lost in the process, hence the name lost wax method. But why go through all that trouble? What were the advantages of this technique?
Well, it allowed them to create sculptures with just incredible detail and intricacy, details that would have been impossible to achieve with other casting methods.
Okay, so give me an example. What kind of details are we talking about?
Well, if you look at a Gupta bronze Buddha, you'll notice the intricate folds of his robes, the delicate features of his face, the subtle hand gestures. All those details were made possible by the lost wax method.
So it's not just about the overall form of the sculpture. It's about those subtle details that bring it to life.
Exactly, and those details weren't just decorative. They often had symbolic meaning. They conveyed specific attributes or qualities of the deity being depicted.
So technical skill combined with artistic intention. But it wasn't just about detail, right? The lost wax method also allowed them to create sculptures with a sense of movement and dynamism that was previously unheard of.
Absolutely. They were able to capture the fluidity of drapery, the subtle shifts in weight and balance, the dynamism of a dancing pose. It was like they were freezing a moment in time, capturing the energy and vitality of the human form.
So it wasn't just like static statues. They were creating sculptures that seemed to breathe, to move, to have a life of their own.
And that's what makes Gupta bronze sculptures so captivating. They draw you in. They make you feel like you're witnessing something sacred, something timeless.
Okay, so I'm starting to get a sense of why the Gupta period is considered this golden age in Indian art. The innovation, the technical skill, the spiritual depth it's all incredibly impressive.
And it's not just about the art itself. It's about what it tells us about the Gupta civilization, their values, their beliefs, their aspirations.
You're right. It's a window into their world, a glimpse into the minds of those who created these masterpieces. And it's a reminder that art can be this powerful tool for understanding history, for connecting with cultures across time and space.
Absolutely. And in the case of the Guptas, that art continues to inspire and amaze us today. It's a testament to their enduring legacy.
We've really journeyed through this incredible world of Gupta art, from those amazingly detailed bronze sculptures to the majestic temples and the vibrant murals of the Ajanta Caves. It's clear they mastered various artistic techniques. But what I find truly fascinating is like the thought behind it, like their worldview, you know?
Absolutely. The Guptas weren't just creating, beautiful objects. They were expressing a philosophy, a way of understanding the universe and humanity's place within it.
So let's talk about that Gupta worldview for a minute.
Yeah.
What can we learn from their art about how they saw the world and what they valued?
Well, one of the most prominent themes you see reflected in Gupta art is this idea of dharma. It's often translated as, cosmic order or righteous conduct.
And we've touched upon dharma a little bit before, but could you elaborate a little bit on how the Guptas interpreted it and how it sort of manifests in their art?
Sure. For the Guptas, Dharma wasn't just about, following rules. It was about living in alignment with the natural order of the universe, fulfilling your duties and responsibilities, and striving for moral and spiritual growth.
So it's this holistic concept encompassing ethical behavior, social responsibility, and spiritual evolution.
Exactly. And we see this reflected in their art in various ways. Take, for example, those serene expressions on their sculptures, particularly those of deities. These sculptures often depict a state of like perfect equilibrium, radiating a sense of inner peace. They embody that ideal of living in harmony with the cosmic order.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's like It's like those sculptures are visual representations of Dharma, showing us what it looks like to live in balance with the universe.
Precisely. They were striving to capture not just the physical form, but also the spiritual essence.
And this concept wasn't limited to just religious themes, right?
You're right. We see this emphasis on balance and order reflected in their secular art as well, whether it's depictions of everyday life or portraits of rulers. They sought to portray a world where everything was in its rightful place, reflecting a harmonious social order.
So it's about creating visual representations of like an ideal world, a world uh, governed by Dharma.
Yeah, that's a great way to summarize it. The Guptas believed that art could inspire people to live virtuous lives and contribute to a harmonious society.
Speaking of harmony, we can't overlook the theme of interconnectedness, another key concept in Hinduism.
Yeah.
So how did they express this visually?
Well, look at their sculptures and paintings. You'll often see deities depicted with multiple arms or heads, surrounded by this retinue of attendants and celestial beings.
Right, those multi-armed, multi-headed deities. They always seemed a bit unusual to me, but I'm guessing there's a deeper meaning behind that imagery.
Oh, absolutely. Those multiple limbs and heads, they weren't just for aesthetic effect. They were symbolic, representing the deity's vast powers and their ability to act in multiple realms simultaneously. It was a way of visually expressing the interconnectedness of all things.
So it's like they were trying to show that everything is part of this larger cosmic web, that even the gods are connected to this intricate tapestry of relationships.
Exactly. And the retinue of attendants and celestial beings
Hmm.
further emphasizes this idea. They represented the different forces and energies that are constantly interacting within the cosmos. It highlights the interdependence of everything.
And this concept extended beyond just the divine realm, right? They saw this interconnectedness in nature as well.
Absolutely. Their depictions of nature often showed plants, animals, and humans coexisting harmoniously. It was a way of expressing the idea that humans are not separate from nature, but an integral part of it.
That's a perspective we could learn a lot from today,
Hmm.
given our current environmental challenges. It seems the Guptas really understood the delicate balance of nature and humanity's role within it.
They did seem to have a profound understanding of our interconnectedness with the natural world, a concept that resonates deeply with modern ecological thinking.
It's a testament to the enduring wisdom we can find in ancient cultures. So moving on, I'm curious about another facet of Gupta society. They were known for their intellectual achievements. So did this focus on knowledge find expression in their art as well?
Absolutely. The Guptas were great patrons of learning. They supported scholars, writers, and the translation of important texts. And this focus on knowledge is reflected in their art too. For example, in sculptures where deities are depicted holding books or scrolls, symbolizing wisdom and knowledge.
So it wasn't just about beauty or religious devotion. They were also celebrating knowledge and intellect.
They saw knowledge as a pathway to enlightenment, a way to understand the universe and our place within it. Their temples weren't just places of worship; they also served as centers of learning where scholars gathered to debate and discuss ideas.
That's fascinating. It's like those temples were the ancient equivalent of universities fostering this culture of learning and intellectual exchange.
Precisely, and this emphasis on knowledge is a value that transcends time and remains relevant today. In our information age, the pursuit of knowledge and critical thinking are more crucial than ever.
Speaking of timeless values, the Guptas also seem to have this deep yearning for transcendence, this desire to go beyond the material world.
So how did they express this in their art?
What we see this expressed most prominently in the towering Shikharas of their temples. Those spires reaching towards the heavens symbolize the aspiration to transcend the earthly realm and connect with the divine. Right. They were reaching for something beyond the everyday, seeking a connection with the infinite.
Exactly. And this yearning wasn't confined to architecture. It permeated their sculptures, their paintings, their literature, their music, even their dance. There was this pervasive desire to connect with something larger than themselves, to experience a sense of unity and wholeness.
It's a universal human longing, this desire to find meaning and purpose beyond the material world. And the Guptas, through their art, they offer us a glimpse into how they sought to express and fulfill this yearning.
Through their art, they invite us to contemplate these same questions, to explore our own aspirations for transcendence and connect with a sense of the divine that transcends cultural boundaries.
So we've explored these key elements of the Gupta worldview: harmony, interconnectedness, the pursuit of knowledge, and the aspiration for transcendence. And it's a vision that continues to resonate with us today, even after all these centuries.
It's a testament to the enduring power of art to communicate across time and cultures, inspire us, to challenge us and connect us to something larger than ourselves.
The Guptas may be long gone, but their art continues to speak to us, offering a glimpse into a civilization that valued beauty, wisdom, and the interconnectedness of all things.
And as we conclude our deep dive into the art of the Gupta Empire, I hope our listeners are inspired to explore further, to delve deeper into the rich and diverse world of art and history that surrounds us.
There's a whole universe of art and culture out there waiting to be discovered. So keep asking questions, keep your minds open, and keep diving deep.
Until next time on the Deep Dive.